to action that he has had, or even what people would like to hear. And if he's well aware that his words could be interpreted in a way that would incite violence, that would incite criminal behavior, then he should be more cautious. But there's a track record here. This summer, remember with George Floyd's killing, he said when the looting starts, the shooting starts. There hasn't been a causal connection to people making that statement with any crimes have been committed. And of course, he's already successful in a case by those who said that he incited violence against him in Louisville. So he has a difficult track record, yet we can't always prove it in the law.
Laura Coates, Sean Turner, thanks to both of you. Appreciate it. Coronavirus just reached a mark in the United States that has not happened in 2 months. It's not a good mark. We'll tell you what it is next.
Indeed.com is the #1 job site in the world because Indeed gets you the best people fast. Unlike other sites, Indeed gives you full control and payment flexibility over your hiring. You only pay for what you need. You can pause your account at any time, and there are no long-term contracts. Plus, Indeed provides powerful tools to make your search that much easier, like sponsored jobs, which are shown to be 3.5 times more likely to result in a hire. With 73% of online job seekers visiting Indeed each month, Indeed is going to get you the important hire you need, just like they have for over 3 million businesses. Right now, Indeed is offering you a free $75 credit to boost your job post, which means more quality candidates will see it fast. Try Indeed out now at Indeed.com/Tapper. This is their best offer available anywhere. That's Indeed.com/Tapper.
Back now with our national lead. Coronavirus cases are rising across every region in the country. Just yesterday, the nation reported more than 56,000 new infections, the most new cases added on a single day in months. Today, a majority of states are seeing cases trending up. And as CNN's Nick Watt reports, some states are also facing record-high hospitalizations.
A new outbreak at a nursing home here in California. 9 dead.
I'm trying to prepare myself that I'm never going to see my mom in person again.
In New Jersey, average new case counts are up over 60% these past 2 weeks. New Mexico's governor is worried.
We're in a pretty difficult spot in the state of New Mexico right now. We are at extreme risk of uncontrollable spread.
56,191 new coronavirus cases reported in the U.S. Thursday, the most in nearly 2 months.
This is really something we need to pay attention to.
These 10 states have more COVID-19 patients in the hospital now than ever before. These 3 states, Kansas, South Dakota, Tennessee, just logged their most COVID-19 deaths in a single day. Over the course of this pandemic, we've seen hotspots, spikes, rolling waves.
The state of Florida.
Arizona's at a real crossroads.
The hospitalization rate here in California.
Up one place, down in another. But right now, every region in this country is on the rise. New York saw hell in the spring, now seeing spikes, some centered on religious communities.
They're not following the rules. We know what happens when you don't follow the rules. The infection rate goes up.
Broadway, now shuttered until at least the end of May, went dark mid-March, will stay dark for more than a year due to a virus. The NFL now juggling its schedule, reacting to outbreaks. Patriots, Broncos now moved from Sunday to Monday. Titans, Bills will now play Tuesday. Meanwhile, the president, fresh from a dose of Regeneron's experimental treatment, says Regeneron and Eli Lilly will get FDA emergency use authorization to roll out their antibody therapies. But hold on. Promising results among small numbers of patients to approaches that include antibody therapies are not a substitute for the rigorous scientific review that is essential, says a group of prominent medical societies in a plea to the FDA. That's where we are. Medical professionals clubbing together to implore a government agency to ignore the president. And today, our planet set an unwanted record. More than 350,000 COVID-19 infections reported worldwide. So here's where we are. A virus that we didn't even know existed a year ago has now infected more than 36 million people across our globe. And Jake, a ridiculously disproportionate number of those infections are right here in the United States. Jake?
Including among the President of the United States, who is resuming campaign activity, whether or not he's infectious and contagious. Nick Watt, thanks so much. Joining us now, the director at the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota, Michael Osterholm. Michael, thanks so much for joining us. So the U.S. reported the most new daily cases in nearly 2 months on Thursday. Cases have surged by 12% since just last week. Why is this surge happening? What do we need to be doing in the United States that we are obviously not doing?
Well, actually, the surge was predictable. We actually talked about it more than a month ago. It starts out, first of all, with college students coming back to universities and colleges, and we're seeing substantial transmission there, which then is spilling over into the older adult population, those with underlying health problems. Then we see people who basically have come to their end of pandemic fatigue and holding things up, and they're just going to go do what they want to do, and that's what's happening. Then we see pandemic anger, about a third of the population that doesn't believe this pandemic is real. They think it's a hoax, and so they're going to do whatever they want to do. If you look right now at funerals, weddings, family reunions, athletic events, bars and restaurants, we're at an all-time high for transmission, and this is going to get a lot worse before it even considers leveling off.
In the Northeast, the average of new cases is up a staggering 91% since 1 month ago. Do you anticipate a full-blown second wave of cases, or has the first wave not even ended?
Well, you know, as you and I have talked before, I'm not really convinced these are waves. This is like a forest fire, where if you suppress it and hold it down, you may have embers left, but you don't have a big forest fire. And what has happened is every time we have these increased number of cases we saw in April, we saw again in July, some areas do lock down a bit, slow transmission down, but then give up after several months of that, and they come right back. That's what's happening right now around much of the country. New York is an example where they did an incredible job for 14 weeks keeping case numbers down. Finally, members of certain communities in New York City decided they were tired of what they needed to do, and lo, we have cases. I think we have so many people right now that have given up on this pandemic long before the virus ever gave up on us. We're just going to continue to see this ever-increasing number of cases out there. It'll far surpass what we saw in July when we were at our worst of the pandemic to date.
We just learned that President Trump is holding an event at the White House tomorrow on the South Lawn. The White House has yet to announce that he's tested negative for coronavirus. He's expected to address attendees from a balcony. Would you go to that event if invited?
Well, I wouldn't go right now because I think the White House itself has a fair number of infections.
The hot zone.
I mean, if he's up on the balcony and he's not near the people, then he doesn't really pose any risk. But I think the issue is, again, the White House has not really gotten its act together in terms of the prevention program that they need to have. I said 3 months ago that what they had done to use these rapid tests to protect the president was akin to giving squirt guns to the Secret Service and telling them to protect the president against an assassin. The program was absolutely illogical and terribly inadequate. So unless they've changed that, I don't see any reason why one can assume that there's going to be less transmission at the White House now than there was several weeks ago.
So that's good news on that, but in terms of the president, won't necessarily pose a harm, although the White House itself is a potential hot zone.
Yes.
But the Trump campaign just announced that President Trump will be participating in a rally in Sanford, Florida on Monday. What would you tell somebody who said to you, is it okay for me to go to that event? Forget the question about whether or not President Trump is contagious or infectious, which we still do not know among so many things we don't know about his condition. I mean, the president, we're still in the middle of this pandemic and he's holding a rally.
Right. What more can be said? I mean, just the very nature of asking the question states the obvious. I think the challenge we have is helping the American people understand if you bring people together, even when they're outdoors, it's less risk of transmission being close together outdoors, but it's surely not zero. When you bring people together when it's indoors, it's almost guaranteed today with the level of virus out there to pose a significant risk. So, I mean, right now, I've been saying this for several weeks. Any politician, I don't care what party you are, you need to be mindful of your own safety and that of your staff. let alone the people who you're bringing together. And so, this is, between now and the time of the election, the worst possible time to be bringing people together in crowds.
And Florida, just in the last day, reported 2,900 new infections just in that one state.
Well, Florida is ripe for another large outbreak. What they've done is opened up everything as if nothing had ever happened there. And you and I could be talking probably in 8 to 10 weeks, and I will likely bet that Florida will be a house on fire. This is what's so sad about this. We know these things are going to happen. It's not like you can escape this virus. I find it just illogical that people think just because they get done with the virus is done with them. It's not. And so watch Florida, 8 to 10 weeks, and you and I will both be saying, why did they let this happen?
We've been saying this since we've been having these conversations, and
we
starting in February or March, you have constantly been predicting what would happen based on the behavior of the president and the governors who have been listening to him and the behavior of the American people that are refusing to acknowledge the reality. It happens. And we say it's not only predictable, it was literally predicted.
And not only that, Jake, but we're now creating pseudoscience that makes it worse. The state of North Dakota, right now, North Dakota and South Dakota are the two worst states in the entire country. And the state has just decided that if each person has a mask on, the other person doesn't have to quarantine if the one person becomes infected. Mask, everyone should mask. But to say that is what you should do with quarantine, there are no data to support that whatsoever. How, when your house is on fire more than anyone else's in the whole country, can you do that? It was a political decision. It had no science. We need to let science drive the day right now, and it's not.
Michael, I'll just say, as I bid you farewell for the weekend, I wish that at one point you had been wrong in any of the things that you've projected and predicted, but you've been right the whole time, and it just must be maddening.
Well, and what scares me, Jake, is it's going to get a lot worse. I'll put it right here out right now. You can go and come back to this a couple weeks from now. It's going to get much worse.
Michael Osterholm, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jake.
Not once, not twice. Louisiana residents are bracing for a fourth hurricane to make landfall. We're going to go live to the Gulf Coast next. Stay with us. Breaking news in the national lead. You're listening to the howling sounds of Hurricane Delta nearing landfall along the Gulf Coast, shattering records as it does. A good portion of this hurricane is already over land. Parts of Texas and Louisiana have been feeling intense winds and rain for hours now. Delta will be the 10th named storm to hit the U.S. That's the most ever in 1 year. 4 of those named storms hit Louisiana. Let's go to meteorologist Tom Sater in CNN's Severe Weather Center. Tom, Hurricane Delta has been hitting the Gulf Coast for hours now and has not even made landfall yet. How long will Delta be a problem, and will the impact of Hurricane Laura in August affect what we see from Hurricane Delta?
Well, I'll tell you what, 30,000 houses were destroyed 6 weeks ago yesterday with Laura. Another 35,000 were damaged. I mean, power's still out as they're rebuilding the power grid, and we already have reports of 50,000 without power. Some, Jake, just got their power back on last week. The storm system has lost strength. It's now a Category 2. That was forecast to happen. However, it is much broader in its wind field. Hurricane winds extend outward from the center a good 50 miles. Tropical storm force winds are around 160. So it's a Category 2 strength. Landfall, it's only 35 miles off the coast, just south of Cameron. So between 7 and 8 o'clock, flooding surge, we're already seeing over 6 foot storm surge. 7 to 11 feet is possible. Houston, you've got tropical storm force gusts at 40. New Orleans also has tropical storm force winds. But again, the pattern of rain is dying down somewhat, but you can see where the center is here, Jake. And again, we're just a little way away from landfall, only within 10 miles of where we had, of course, the landfall of Laura. But it's to the east of this section that is the big concern, where we're having that storm surge already affect so many areas that were destroyed. So with that, the winds, there are thousands of homes that have blue tarps, and they are not going to be able to survive these hurricane winds that'll move out of the region by tomorrow morning.
All right, Tom, thanks so much. Finally today, we'd like to take a moment to remember one of the lives cut short by coronavirus. More than 213,000 have died in the United States from coronavirus. Chad Dorrell was 19 years old 19. He was an avid basketball player. He made the all-conference team in high school. He was a sophomore at Appalachian State studying